When you're hiring a person, what do you look for?
For me, my biggest result is calm under chaos. That's the big, because if you can't handle stress, like everything else is gonna fall apart from that. And you can't handle yourself under pressure. Stress is one thing, but pressure is a different thing, because pressure comes from a short-term deadline, right? And you need to be able to be logical and rational. Like, we can teach you almost anything in this day and era, right? But it's how you command the tools in the crunch time that's necessary. And if you can't command those tools, it's like, that's the most important thing for me. So I'm looking, like, I would say calm under chaos is number one, and then communication skills is number two.
Welcome back to the YouTube channel. Today I have a very special guest, Mr. Iconic Becker. We are here in Medellin, Colombia, about 2 months away from the biggest day of his life. How are we feeling, Mr. Becker?
That's a pretty accurate statement.
Yes. We've come a long way. I've known Icon for now almost 4 years, which is crazy. And every event feels like it's the biggest day of your life. But like this one actually
is definitely the biggest day of my life.
And we're gonna dive into this and the details and everything else. But you know, a lot of my audience knows you and we're in the same circles. But for those who don't, what is the elevator pitch about Iconic Becker? Who's Iconic Becker?
Yeah, so what's up, everybody? My name is Icon, and I run the world's greatest events. We do large-scale live events for corporates, conversations. We do events as large as 2,000. We do events as small as 20. We do events for the FBI, Formula One, Gary Vaynerchuk. We've got a client roster list that includes Grant Cardone, Ben Newman, Tim Grover, and so many more. So essentially, when it comes to creating not only amazing and live events, but creating events that sell, that go on to create incredible experiences that put people into a buyer's pocket, that's really what our claim to fame is. So we're the people that make kick-ass events, and we sell a lot of things, we'll ride them.
And I go so back with Becker that I remember that he hated the word event, that you wanted to tell people, it's an experience, it's not an event, but I think you kind of had to realize, like, just like for me, at the end of the day, it's VAs, right? It's remote team members, but we can have different names.
I tried to really pioneer that too. I was like, guys, it's no longer event. It is I sell experiences. I sell transformation.
Which is cool, but then when you get to the higher level and you start working with corporate people, they're like, it's an event. Like, they make you realize.
What is it? Oh, no, it's an event. Yeah.
I love it. So I went to one of your events in 2021 in Mexico, and to date, it's still one of my favorite events ever. And I've been to a lot of events. We spent like literally, we just spent 50 racks on an event. And you're correct, like you guys really do put on experience. And like, where did the idea of making events different come from? Because it probably came, I'm assuming, came from going to events and feeling like it's all the same shit. And then you're like, I want to do something different. Yeah.
So I think actually it's a little bit of the opposite. So I never thought I would be an events company, right? Like the only thing I ever wanted to be was a YouTuber. And growing up, I just really thought like, all I want to be is a YouTuber, all I want to be is a YouTuber. And I remember going to my favorite YouTuber at the time. It was this meetup after like 6 years of being in this dream of being a YouTuber. And I wait for 6 hours in line to meet this guy. And I get to the front of the line. I was like, oh my God, Freddie, what is it like to be you? Like, you're my dream, you're my everything. Like, all I ever wanted to be is like you. You know, what advice do you have for someone like me? And he looks at me and he says something that I'll never forget for the rest of my life. He says, if I was you, kid, I wouldn't be a YouTuber. My heart sank in that moment. And I was like, what do you mean you wouldn't be a YouTuber? That's everything I wanted to be. That's what you are. And he says, if I was in your shoes, I would build a business first, and then I'll do the YouTube thing. And I was like, oh, okay, that's what I have to do now. So then I went ahead and was like, let me go ahead and start trying to build a business and something that allows me to have control of my life. And I did the same thing we all do, right? Like I followed Ty Lopez online, bought the social media marketing agency course, and tried building an SMMA. Tried a bunch of different verticals. It didn't end up working out. Somehow we eventually stumbled upon doing a social media marketing agency for super yachts. And where we really specialized there was content, really nailing content for super yachts. And so how do you sell something that costs $7, $10, $20 million? You can't just run ads to it. And you can't just have one hell of a sales deck. You have to have a brand. You have to have trust. And that comes from content, right? So as we started selling these things, we built out quite a production team. When we weren't shooting yachts, a lot of my friends would say like, hey, would you mind shooting our events? And I was like, sure. So that was a business that was really growing. I was so proud of it. I finally had the lifestyle business where I was getting to a point where I was traveling around. I was hanging out on big yachts. I was, getting to have some almost that inching towards that 10K a month income that we all crave so much. And then the pandemic happened, and I lost it all. And I had a lot of video editors and a lot of team members that we had at the time that helped me along the way build the yacht company. And we were just like, hey, you know what? If we can't shoot yachts anymore, what else can we do? And after brainstorming a while, we realized we're like, hey, we shot content of everyone else's live event. And because we're shooting everyone else's event, like if you host an event right now, the only feedback and data you have to work with is the data of your own event, right? Or events you've been to. But I had data of everyone's event. So I was like, I probably know more about running events than these people do. And yeah, we were the guys who were crazy enough to decide to run an event in the middle of a pandemic. And that was actually the first event we ran, was the one that you came to. And it was such a home run that we just decided that was our thing. And here we are 137 live events later.
And what's crazy is that I don't know if I think you told me that, but I don't think I realized that it was your first event because it was ran so well. Like it was such a kick-ass event. I was like, there's no way this is his first event. And I thought that was like part of your pitch to me. But then to Joel, that would have been a terrible pitch because it's like, yeah, this is your first event. You're going to be my guinea pig.
Yeah, no, so for context on that, I've never bluffed harder than I did in this one sales pitch. Basically, Joel Kaplan, shout out Joel, wanted to host a live event, but nobody could pull it off for him. I made this funny video online, and I was like, I could pull off this event without question. And I was so confident, I was so baked into the character that I could do this, that somehow he believed me. And we went on he let us run the event, and it was a home run. I mean, we had a helicopter, like open door, land on the beach, Mexican fazenda, like it was incredible. It was one of the coolest events ever.
And then I think that's when you have that type of success, which is interesting because like my first hiring for VA was Eric Fosnot, who's now hired like 15 people with us, and he's becoming one of my close friends. And then it's funny to think about because I'm like, we get so lucky when you hit the first one, but now that's the expectation. So you set the expectation so high. If I remember correctly, the second event was with Ravi. So then it's like you have to do even more.
Yeah, so we went from literally never running an event to, okay, now 2 different people have given us a budget of like $200,000, more money than I've ever seen in my entire life. And they're like, okay, like make this thing work. And if this doesn't work, like I will bury you. And I was like, okay,
here we go.
Let's do it. And so the first event was in this house in Mexico, which was a smash success. But the one with Ravi was really interesting because that was what set us apart. Was when with Ravi wanted to do a 200-person event, and at the time during the pandemic, we couldn't do that because only 13 people were allowed inside, and if you were outside, well, then you'd have to deal with like tents and air conditioning, and it's like there was no place. And I sat there and I was really stumped on what I was going to present to Ravi, and I almost thought about like rejecting the contract because I was so scared of really disappointing him and disappointing that expectation that I'd set with Joel now. And he went ahead, and I was driving by this parking garage in Miami on the way to present to Ravi, and I just was like, I think that could work. And then I kind of left that one in the back of my mind, and then literally the morning of the pitch, you were there, we were in Tulum, I didn't have a venue, and I call up this parking garage, and like in the morning, I was like, yo, listen, what's the chance I could host an event in this parking garage? And they were like, what? And I was like, I want to put 200 people in this parking garage, it's going to be awesome. And they were like, no one's ever asked that question, but sure, here's the price. And I was like, cool, done. So we locked it in, and about 3 months later, we ended up running Scaling with Systems Live in a parking garage in Miami in the peak of the pandemic. And because it was outside, we could have 200 people there without any form of like law obstruction. But because it was high off the ground, it had enough airflow to where it was nice and cool, and we didn't have to worry about like air conditioning. So it was a win-win for everyone. So like in the end, the parking garage is actually the perfect location. And we ran this event, and with Ravi, that was at that point we were like, we've documented enough people's offers and pitches, and we've seen kind of like enough people present from stage. There's a circadian rhythm to this. Like there's a routine that all of these guys that are selling from stage are following. If we just take the videos of what we've recorded, transcribe them, overlay them, and then look at the similarities, we could probably figure out how are they selling this thing so easily. And so we did that. We were like, okay, we think we've got a formula. We need to test it with someone. Again, Ravi was confident enough with us to say, well, I trust what you're saying. Let's go ahead and let's give it a go. And we were like, all right, fuck it, we're in. And we ran that offer, and that was the first offer we ever got behind, and we did $1.2 million in less than 5 hours.
From stage.
From stage in less than 5 hours.
That's crazy. And this is before ChatGPT. So
This
everything
before-
that
yeah.
you're transcribing, this is
Yeah,
all
we were
that you
hand laying it like on Excel sheets, and then like looking at it like line by line, segment by segment.
I truly believe just being seeing and being a part of that journey for you, just like seeing it from the outside. The first event, you're like, we did it, but like I don't know if I can do it again. And then the second event, that cemented you. That cemented you in space because you went after, a lot of people that are watching this know Joel and Ravi, but like in reality, they're not really known in the entire business world. Like the really like corporate level don't know them. However, in the internet marketing world, that's actually frightening because they can ruin your name like that.
Yeah.
Not that they would, but they could if they really wanted to. So you went after two of the biggest names in the digital marketing coaching space and crushed it both times. And I think that's what cemented you to be able to do 100 plus events. So
yeah, but there's a lesson in that, and I think that's a really important lesson to share with people because a lot of people ask like, why did you go with these two and not like work your way up? And a lot of times I think when they're doing business, they also work their way up. And so, do you remember Avatar, like the one with the blue people?
Yes.
Right. That movie had so many lessons in it, but there's one that everyone ignores, and everyone like thinks the movie's about humans destroying the planet and whatnot. Don't get me wrong, that's there, but there's a really key lesson in there, which is there's this fabled bird, and it's the orange one, right? And so the blue people, they all ride these birds, but there's this really big bird, and it's the orange one, and it's bigger than all of the other ones, and whoever rides this bird is like a legend, right? But this bird knows that it's so big that nothing will ever hunt it, nothing will ever scare it, nothing will ever fly above it. And so Jake Sully says, hey, if this bird is so confident that nobody's ever going to attack it, then it's never going to look up. And so when he went to the biggest bird and he tried to attack it, it was actually easier for him to land and secure this bird than his first bird because it was a bird that never looked up. And so when I was thinking about the business model, I took that lesson as like, when I'm looking for clients, I need to go for the people who don't look up. Because if you go for the people who don't look up, like I'm not going to be competing with anyone else. That's how I did in the super yacht marketing agency. That's how I did in the private island agency. And then that's what we did with the events. And that's how we landed both Joel and Ravi, was you have to have the confidence, but you also have to go for the clients who don't look up.
100%. I think the super yacht idea is like literally that gave you confidence because you were already going for 8-9 figure business owners.
Yeah.
Like, it would be hard for you to play the game and start a 10-person event. I just feel like you almost psychologically fucked yourself up because you already went for the biggest fish in the pool.
Yeah.
And then you're like, I'm gonna keep going up and keep going up. So over the last 2.5, 3 years of running these events, what would you say has been the most successful event you've ran to date in terms of like the people that were in the room that you looked around, you were like, how did I put this together?
Yeah, I think there's two events that come to mind, but the main one is probably going to be one of my more recent ones, which is Ben Newman's like Las Vegas boot camp. Ben Newman is one of the top performance coaches in the world, and we had so many incredible speakers. We had Ed Milet, we had Tim Grover, the guy who literally trained Michael Jordan, and we had these guys out, and so this event was really special because one, not only was Ben an incredible client, but two, the people and the caliber of this room. So everyone in this room paid a minimum of $8,000 a ticket to be here. $8,000 a ticket. Think about any event you've been to that you paid $8,000 a ticket, right? Never, right? Like me neither.
Yeah.
So we were like, okay, there's a certain bar of expectation again, and we kind of had up until this point, we were kind of getting into this rhythm of like we're doing the same events, it's the same style and whatnot. But when we figured out these guys were paying $8,000 a ticket, we were like, every expectation has to be hit here. Like we have to think above and beyond how are these people going to think and how can we match those expectations. Like when you rent a resort that's $100 a night and you rent a resort that's $1,000 a night, like they think of things, it's the same building usually, like there's not a huge crazy difference, but there's little things they think of, right? You go into the room, there's water on the bed, there's a little chocolate for you, then you go to the table and there's already apples and fruits. It's the little things that you notice, right? That in the big price jumps, it's the little things that matter. So in this event, we really had to think about the little things. So we had it where like we had this Palms casino and we rented out the entire roof of it and we converted this bar into like this custom black hat gambler experience, right? So this gambling experience, and it was like we had the poker tables literally had like custom felts where we had all the speakers on. I myself was actually on the felt. It was awesome.
That's sick.
Right? We had different types of tables. We had poker, we had roulette, we had blackjack. Like all of it was here to create this experience, right? When you walked in, instead of, okay, there's a bar and then there's networking, we had it where there was a girl specifically stationed at the front. Her only job was to welcome each individual person and hand them a glass of champagne. So not just like, hey, there's a table person and they're just passing out champagne, but it was like literally like, oh my God, Omir, Ben's been waiting for you. It's so exciting to have you here. Here, can I get you a glass of champagne or a glass of water to get you started for the night, right? So now you're walking and everyone's got the glass of champagne in their hand. They feel welcomed. And now they have a little bit of a direction. So there's these slight little things. So the event just went awesome, man. We had it where not only did we do the custom casino, but we literally rented the 2 largest hotel rooms in all of Las Vegas. I had both of them, right? So one of them is made of like solid gold. It's 7 bedrooms. It's like, it's at the Palms Casino. I don't remember I think it's called the gold one is called the Golden Suite, and then there's what's called the Hardwood Suite. And the Hardwood Suite is crazy because it has a full basketball court inside of it. So it's got a basketball court, it's 3 stories. I actually stayed in it, it was incredible. Both of these hotel rooms cost $30,000 a night to stay at. A night. So, like, the details we had in this, where when you got into the basketball court, we had custom basketball signed by Justin Gatlin, the Olympian. We had Tim Grover sign the balls. Like, it was just every aspect of the experience and setup was so well done. And a big moment that really hit for me was when Ed Milet showed up to the event. And I personally wanted to mic him because when you have speakers coming in like this, it's like you only get a couple minutes to kind of like have a conversation with them without being swarmed by people. And so one of the easiest ways to get a hold of the speaker's attention is to mic them, right? And so I go up and I'm micing Ed, and I'm like, hey, just checking mics. It looks good here. Boom, 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 boom. And I was like, he's like, thanks so much. And he was like, what'd you say your name was? And I was like, I'm Icon. And I'll never forget. He looks and he goes, Icon? I think we know you. And I was like, well, that is fucking awesome because I definitely have never contacted you guys, never done any work with you, but it's like the name has gotten out. So that was such a huge confirmation, man. Overall, the event could not have gone better. We did somewhat north of $1 million at that event for Ben. We launched a brand new offer. We had an incredible experience. Like, the attendees walked away thinking like, oh my God, this is the most amazing event ever. And again, it's just about the small details to where even like the items in the bag, how are they placed? Like how do different elements interact with each other? Just all of those things. Like even on the poker chips, like the poker chips had it where like we had pictures of the different speakers. So you could literally like bet Ben or bet Tim. Like it was fun. Yeah. And so those little elements where people talked about in the event, and yeah, the education and the presentations were amazing, but people left there saying like, it was these items that really, really, really sold it for me. And I knew that was probably one of the most successful events because I did this series at the event where I went over and I compared everyone's watches to each other. And the cheapest watch in the room, I think, was like $15,000. And you know that when like you have 200 people in a room and the cheapest watch is $15,000, you're in the right room.
Yeah, that's huge. So you're talking about the little things, you're talking about events. All of that requires team. Yeah. And you are one of the best leaders for your team members. What you've done for a lot of the people that I've met through you have been amazing. And I'd love for you to talk a little bit about like your experience when it comes to remote team members and like, you know, dealing with editors and having like the team that you have today, because some of these people have been with you for literally years.
Yeah, and to be honest, I actually think I've been feeling recently I could probably be even better of a leader, but I think we always feel that way, right? Yeah. Like we always want to go above and beyond. I really think the biggest thing is I in no ways would call myself an incredible or the benchmark for what a good leader should be, but I can say that like for what we've created at Culture, at Clever, our number one core value is calm and chaos, right? So calm and chaos, because events are chaotic. And calm and chaos is a huge metric for us because a lot of times when events break down, and no matter what, no matter how much planning we put in, something will happen, something will break. What matters is how we react to it, right? In those situations, whether it's in an event or even in your internal company, when something has a problem, people will usually blame each other or they'll come at each other for it, right? And so we created a culture that was very reciprocating of like, hey, like we have a problem, like let's work together to solve it. Our second core value is solutions, never problems. So if whoever ever has a problem, is these team members know that they're coming to me with a solution like, hey, here's what happened, here's what we're going to do about it, let's get this fixed. And so taking it with that attack first mentality has been huge. But really the last thing I think that was something we cemented a long time ago was I like to believe that like we're a dream first company. And so there's a great book called The Dream Manager, and it's loosely based around the concept of what we talked about here. But what's the point of any company, right? And like most of the time, the number one priority is to return profit for its shareholders. And only later on down the chain is it to support the team. And if you put the team at the front and say, we're a dream first company, right? And then when you do that, profit to shareholders, return on client expectation, all that stuff will just drip after. Yep. So for us, a great story that I like to tell is when we're onboarding all of our team members, we like to ask them what their dreams are. And we like to have these quarterly meetings where we sit down and kind of see how we're getting to them closer, because you're Omir, right? Like you're a man who's in so many buckets. You're a CEO, you're a finance officer, you're a marketing officer. Hell, you're the lead on every ads right now, right? You have a lot more awareness of financial prosperity and planning and management skills than most people do, especially individual and itemized team members in your team as well, right? So if we only use those skills in relation to the business, then we're not supporting the team as a whole, right? Like our team members in the Philippines, they might not know that much about budgeting. They might not know much about leveraging credit or debt. And so it's like, it's our job as CEOs to actually help them with those things. And so we sit down with all of our team members and we do this process called the dream board, where we say like, what is your biggest dream? How long do you think it's going to take you to get there? If you could visualize your dream and your dream's at the top of a mountain and we're at the bottom of the mountain, where would the first step be? And a great story of this is our editor, Dale. So our editor, Dale, has been with us for 6 years now. And a lot of people wonder, like, how do you keep someone for 6 years?
It's a long time. And
the best reason is simply you care about their dream. Now, for Dale, how did we do that? Well, when Dale came on, we asked him what was his dream. And his biggest dream, it wasn't a house or a girlfriend or money or anything. It was, I want a dual screen monitor with a Ryzen 2080 Ti graphics card. Right? Like his battle station, his computer, like that's what mattered to him most. And so I was like, okay, Kia, like, how do you think you're going to get that? And he was like, oh, well, I'm going to have to make more money. And most people think the fastest route to their dreams is just working harder and making more money. And both of us know that's not true. No. So instead we said, all right, Dale, here's the revenue objectives for the company this year. If we hit this one, we'll get you that thing, right? When we asked him earlier, how long is it going to take him for it to have this dream? He said it would take him maybe 2-3 years. We were like, hey, we're going to give it to you in 6 months. You can imagine the high he's got now of being like, oh my God, I could do this in 6 months as compared to what I was just thinking 3 years ago. Holy shit, I'm in, right? So we go ahead and we work together, we crush it. And as Dale's starting to keep picking up, we thought it would take us 6 months to get that revenue goal. It ended up taking about a year, which is fine. Because again, we didn't promise him he was going to get it 6 months. We said we promised him we were at this revenue goal. And when we fell short of the revenue goal, he was the one that was saying, how do we get back to this? Like, how do we motivate ourselves back? So we keep pushing. And as I start promoting Dale more and more, I start going more public with him. People start seeing our editing work and they're like, I want to find your editors. And I had someone who specifically reached out to Dale and said, hey, I know you work for Icon. That's great. I think you should come work for me instead. I love what you're doing. I'm going to give you 3 times the salary that Icon's paying you. And I'm also going to relocate you to this really nice part of the Philippines. I'm going to give you health insurance. And after 3 years of working together, I'm going to put you in for a U.S. work visa, which was like the golden ticket. Like every remote, everything you could ask for as a remote I say remote Latino, but it's like as remote Filipino. Yeah. As a remote Filipino, right? Like everything you could ask for, he offered right there. But you know what he didn't offer?
The dream.
Double screen monitor with a 2080 GTX graphics card. So Dale turned him down, still worked for us. 3 months later, he got his dream. Dual screen monitor, 2080 GTX graphics card.
That's insane. What's Dale's dream today?
Now he's got a girlfriend in Korea, and he wants to be able to support her and live with her over there without impacting his skills here. So we need to kind of convert his role now. So now it's less of a monetary shift, and it's more of like, how do we position you in a certain strategic role to oversee a team so that you can ride them from Korea instead of here. So overall, I think like holding ourselves to that is really how we've been able to have such a structured team for all this time.
One of the coolest things about that is I know Dale. I've gotten to hang out with him. I lived with him actually last year for a few months. an amazing person. Another person that I got to meet through you and because of us is Juan.
Yeah.
And what you've been able to do with Juan is just it's so incredible. You know, Dale is at the level he's at right now. He's been with you for 6 years, but Juan is, you know, I think he's entered 2 years now with you.
Yeah.
And it's pretty cool because, I mean, this kid was like lost in life, and it was almost like you guys saved him. And you know, sometimes we overlook the amount of people that we help, and you know, I'm always like, let's get to 40 hirings this month and 50 hirings, and da-da-da. But at times, you know, we don't know everybody's story. I don't know everybody's dreams. I don't know what every business is doing, but I just want to connect them and make the hiring process easier. But when I have connections with clients and obviously a lot of friends like yourself, I get to hear the side of that I don't know about.
Yeah,
so like,
and that's where, you know, Remote Latinos worked so well, was that, you know, we needed a video editor, and we had a couple Filipinos at the time, and the Filipinos were great, but we wanted someone that was going to be in our time zone. And Juan's story was that he was at a job here in Medellin, and he was getting paid $3 an hour. And as we all know, like, that is below acceptable. And he was unappreciated, he was underpaid, and he basically stored up enough money to last him about 2 months. And he said, I'm going to take these 2 months and I'm going to just try to give it my best. And you know what? I'm going to quit this job. I'm going to throw myself at like trying to find a good one, someone who appreciates me. And if I don't find it, I'll come back here, right? He tried for the next 2 months to find someone that would hire him and pay him more. Nobody did. In the last 2 weeks, he found Remote Latinos, right? And within 10 days, you introduced him to us. And within 10 days of that, 24 hours of that introduction, he was hired at Clever for more than basically triple that rate. He went from being underappreciated, not being able to provide for his family, being in a really bad part of town, to he was able to move his mom. Since then, he's moved his mom out of that part of town. He's the sole breadwinner for the family. They have a nice apartment in Bayo. It's 3 bedrooms. He's able to furnish it, take care of the whole 9 yards. He's able to take care of his mom. So it's just him working now. He's been with us. He actually now oversees a new editor that you just provided us. And he's incredible, man. Yeah. He's one of the most amazing team members we have. He's just,
I always say it's one thing when you hire someone really skilled. It's another thing when they're skilled and they're a good person.
Yeah.
Like that combination makes your life as the CEO and manager so much better. So I love that, dude. And obviously we love working with you because I know if I find you the right person and they're good at their job, they're going to love working with you. And yeah. For me, that alleviates so much stress because I don't know every company I talk to to the depth that I should until we actually begin working with them and seeing how they are. Because an hour phone call doesn't really, I can't know everything about your business and your culture. But with you, because I know you, obviously, it's like, man, if I find someone talented, they're going to be with you forever. Yeah, it's interesting you say that too, because we just got another editor from you guys, and they unfortunately had it where this week so they literally started last week, and at the beginning of this week they found out that their dad was in the hospital and needed a surgery, and basically he texted me on Monday like freaking out, and he's like, I don't know what I'm going to do. I just got this job. It's a dream job for me. I don't want to get fired, but I have to be here for my dad. I'm the sole breadwinner of the family. And again, we're a dream first company. So I was like, hey man, just take the week off. You know, like we got your back. Like, it's all good. Yeah. And he was so stunned. He was just so confused. He was like, what do you mean? I was like, just be with your family. And he was so taken back by this, man. And we ended up finding out this morning that his dad is okay. He's going to make a full recovery. But the dynamic shift from where he was to where he is now, thanks to you, is huge, man. And now, now he almost feels like he owes you. Not that he does, because he really doesn't owe you anything. You don't owe him anything. But now I believe that you doing that should make him like an all-star for you guys and like go above and beyond and maybe at times work weekends. You guys are now in crunch time, and we're going to dive into that in a second here. So that's super cool. So the last thing I want to know about the team structure is like, when you're hiring a person, what do you look for? For me, my biggest result is calm under chaos. Like that's the big, because if you can't handle stress, like everything else is going to fall apart from that. And you can't handle yourself under pressure. Stress is one thing, but pressure is a different thing, because pressure comes from a short-term deadline, right? And you need to be able to be logical and rational. Like we can teach you almost anything in this day and era, right? But it's how you command the tools in the crunch time that's necessary. And if you can't command those tools, it's like
That's the most important thing for me. So I'm looking like I would say common chaos is number one, and then communication skills is number two.
Yeah, that's huge. So because I think with you, especially with what you guys do, I mean, everything changed. You guys are an industry that's ever changing, and the clients you guys deal with, you know.
Yeah, one detail missed on one of our events is tens of thousands of dollars in losses.
Attention to detail is just like, yeah, it's everything. So, all right, now fast forward 2024.
Yes,
has been a crazy year because about a year ago, we're at my penthouse right now, and about a year ago, Iconic and I lived here together, and we celebrated his birthday outside of here. It was probably, I'm assuming, your best birthday.
It was by far the best birthday party. You threw it for me, so
yes,
it was
awesome.
incredible.
It was awesome.
And it's crazy because my birthday is next week, and I totally forgot.
Yeah, like it's been crazy, and you know, every year in our life is just, it's different. You know, I feel like my year and your year last year was a lot more zen. Like, yeah, we had some pressure, but I feel like we had a lot more fun than we had this year.
So much more fun. Yeah, an incredible amount more fun.
I still had a lot of fun this year, don't get me wrong, but we're diving into 2024. What the hell is CreatorFest?
Yeah, so if you are an event company, there is a glass ceiling to how far you can grow. Think about it like this. I will only, if my income comes from selling events, then I can only make more income by selling more events. Unfortunately, there's a limited amount of days in the year, even if I'm doing a virtual event, right? So I have to now either A, hire more teams to run more events, or B, I have to take on bigger events. But eventually you get to a price point where it's like, there's not much more you can charge. And our events are not cheap. So we start at probably $75,000 per event. I think our most expensive client is $250,000 per event, right? And you know, it's crazy, it's like 3 years ago saying those numbers. I mean, even that Joel event, I think we did it for like $10,000 in total. Yeah. And we lost money because of how much it cost us to put that on. So it's like, we're approaching that ceiling of like, okay, we can't charge really that much more, and we can't run more events because it's not in line with my lifestyle, right? Like, I wanted to make YouTube videos. I didn't want to be the event guy. And so when we're thinking about what's next for us, there's a couple routes that you can go as an event company to get past this ceiling. So one is grow the teams and do more events. Don't want to do that. Second is start owning the AV equipment. So if you own the AV equipment, you buy it once and you can rent it.
The AV equipment.
AV equipment is like the TVs, the speakers, the stages, like all of that stuff. You can rent that out and you can make a lot of money doing that. I mean, millions of dollars.
Yeah, but you're not an event company at that point.
You're not an event company at that point. You're a rental company. Those are the guys who lost the biggest from pandemic. So then there's only a third option if you want to grow as an event company, and that is you start owning your own events. Now, there's a company that did this very successfully. They're called iStack Conferences, and they're the case study for why I'm doing what I'm about to tell you here. iStack Conferences was an event coordination agency, so they just coordinated events. And eventually in about 2019, they were so fed up. They were like, oh, fuck our clients. Like, they keep screwing up. They keep doing the wrong things. If they would just pull these levers right, they would make a lot more money at their event. So what do? They decide we're going to run our own event. But in 6 months' time, that pandemic happened. And so they were like, well, let's go ahead and let's run our own event. We'll make it a virtual event. We've already got all the equipment. We already know how to run the thing. We don't need our clients to do that anymore. We'll just run ourselves and bring our clients in as like speakers. And so,
which by the way, makes a lot more sense. Like when you say that, it makes a lot, it's like being your own with the agency world. That's how I'm thinking. It's like running as yourself or white labeling. So you've basically been a white label this whole time.
Yeah,
in a sense.
I think the best is like you were talking about Eric. Like Eric was like, okay, like I could be an agency for painters, or I could just build my own paint company, right? That's kind of how I felt it was. Yeah. So basically, they run it 6 months later, and they run an event called AdWorld, and you've probably seen this. AdWorld was a virtual event. It didn't have an offer at the end of it, so it wasn't skewed. Brought all these different companies together, and it was so well run that it grew year over year over year. It grew and grew and grew. And AdWorld is now the largest e-commerce event in the entire world. It is the largest social marketing event in the entire world. It's 80,000 attendees. It's like the CES of the game.
Once a year?
Once a year, it's a virtual event.
Virtual too.
It's a virtual
They've
event.
never done a person.
No, but so now that they had such success with the virtual, they were like, all right, clients, we're done with you guys. We're going to run our own stuff now. So they changed their company's name to iStack Conferences because they stack conferences. So now they own Ad World, and they were like, okay, now we're going to make Ecom World. Then they ran Ecom World. Then they tried Affiliate World. Now Affiliate World's a physical event. Long story short, in the span of 3 years, they grew a portfolio of almost $90 million worth of events. 3 years.
Just dominating industry after industry after industry.
Exactly, because if you're the events people, you know how to make a good event, and you can just find the right industry.
It doesn't matter in any show.
So I looked at that and I was like, you know what? That's really interesting. And I thought, okay, well, what's my event? What am I going to take over? And eventually it came down to the idea of like, I looked at what I always wanted to do, which is I always wanted to be a YouTuber. I always wanted to be a creator. Like all of this was kind of just a distraction. And I think a lot of times entrepreneurs, we set this number in our head, we set this goal, and it's like, when I get to this, then I will have this. And then you get there and you're like, well, hold on, I'm
not ready.
Maybe I need to wait a little bit, right? Everyone is like so excited about 10K a month. Like that's the big number, right? 10K a month. But then what happened to you when you hit 10K a month? You did something else, right?
Yeah, immediately I was like, this is not.
You were like, okay, well, this is not that much money. I should probably hire a team. And then you push it out, right? And so what happens is we keep moving this finish line. There's this finish line that we all set for ourselves, and we keep moving it farther and farther and farther away. And then eventually we just never get it and we die. And that's the game.
Yeah, and I want you to speak on this a little bit because I think you learned this from Jeff Miller. And I remember you told me the story, and I thought that was fascinating because Jeff is the granddaddy of agencies.
He's the granddaddy. I was already talking to him this morning.
And he, to me, is the GOAT. And, I have friends today, like my close friends that are running agencies, they look up to him now. I'm like, dude, that's so cool because I know him. I consider him a friend to some degree, You learn that from him where he hit a certain mark. He was going to buy Porsche.
Jeff. So Jeff, I asked Jeff, I was working for Jeff a couple years back when I was starting up the yacht company. And Jeff, I was like, Jeff, what makes you successful? Like, at what number are you going to feel successful? And he was like, it's not a number. He's like, I'll feel successful when I have a Ferrari. And that's it. And I was like, okay, cool. How much do you need to make a Ferrari? And he was like, $100,000 a month and I'll buy a Ferrari. And I was like, Jeff, I'm going to help you make $100,000 a month, the last thing I do. So we set up this plan. We started working to get to 100K. And we keep, it took a couple months. We started visiting the Ferrari dealership. We're visiting this guy, Richard. We knew what the Ferrari dealer was and everything. And then I think like 8 or 9 months later, we're hanging out one day. Bing! Stripe notification comes in. Right on the last day of the month, we crossed 100K on the threshold. And I'm so excited. I run over to Jeff and I'm like, Jeff, this is it. Let's go, buddy. This is the time. It's time for us to go get the Ferrari. This is your moment, dude. And he looks at me and he says something I'll never forget. He says, neat. And I'm like, neat? The fuck do you mean neat, Jeff? This is everything we worked for. This isn't neat. This is incredible. Let's go. And he says, the next thing he says is, well, maybe it would make more sense to get the Ferrari when I'm at 120K a month. And I was heartbroken by that because that's when I realized that we all have this finish line and we get there and then we say, maybe I need to go a little bit further.
Not yet.
And we never stop and just take the win. And I think celebrating wins is something that I've struggled with too. And so I found myself towards the end of last year, we did this incredible event in Vegas with Ben. It was awesome. But I sat there and I was like, I just made another person $1 million from stage. And I was like, I could do that for myself too. What's different? Why can't I do that? And I said, let me look at what iStack conferences did and let me try integrating that into our ecosystem. And I was like, what niche can I take? And I realized the creator economy right now is on track to do $500 billion by 2027. $500 billion, that's the valuation by Goldman Sachs.
That's
of what it's worth.
When you say creators, these are like influencers?
That's what the creator economy as a whole. So that's like thinking about like YouTube, Twitch, streams, the whole Snapchat, the whole 9 yards, right? So $500 billion. It's insane. It's one of the fastest growing markets on the planet, and yet there's only 2 events that exist for these events, and that's VidSummit and VidCon. And all credit to them. There's nothing wrong with them. I went to both, and they both have their perks. But I was like, I think that there's a lot of area for support here. Like, coincidentally, both of these are on the West Coast. where's the love in the East Coast, right? There's nothing here in the East Coast. And so after bouncing it back and forth, I said, you know what? I'm going to do it myself. And CreatorFest was born. And so CreatorFest is
This was around last year.
This was like December last year, right? So CreatorFest is a creator first audience. It's the event where essentially creators become entrepreneurs and entrepreneurs become creators. The idea here is that I have friends that have 5 million followers online and they have less than $500 in their bank account. I have friends that have 5,000 subscribers online and they have millions in the bank account, right? So you have these creators that are getting this fast money from these brand deals that they don't know how to run a business, they don't know how to do production, they don't know how to have a team management, they don't know how to do any of these things. Meanwhile, you have entrepreneurs that manage all of these things, they understand all of them, but they're struggling to build their brand, right? Like every entrepreneur we know is making the same content on Instagram. Here's the 5 things you need to know about starting an SMMA. It's like, you know, and so we're all making the same content. So entrepreneurs are struggling to become creators and creators are struggling to become entrepreneurs. This event is hopefully here to be the fusion that fixes both of that.
I think it's enlightening because you actually know and have friends that are both in that market. So you're able to see, holy shit, you have so many followers, but you don't know how to make money. And then this person is like, holy shit, you have so much capital, but you don't know how to make content.
Exactly.
And I think it's like the medium. You're literally the middleman for both of them to be able to come together and figure out how to run a business with an audience.
Yeah, and so that's really the idea here is that like I can run this as part of my portfolio. This would be like the first event under my portfolio. And make this into an event that is something that is the, you know, hopefully a leader in the industry. And what's crazy is when we started CreatorFest, I thought it would be difficult to get sponsors for the event and it would be easy to get speakers and attendees, but it actually was the opposite. Sponsors jumped into it because there isn't really the creator economy tries to avoid talking about business as much as possible.
No numbers.
No numbers, nothing. The only number they focus on is your follower count.
Clout.
And the issue is that the value of the follower is going down dramatically, right? Like we're not in an era, the death of the follower, Omir, is coming here very soon.
I feel like it's here. Because like the amount of followers is like so irrelevant compared to the engagement they actually get from the audience.
Well, let me break it down for you again, right? Think about it like this. Do you know the history of the follower?
No.
So the follower came out like back in like, I think it was early 2010s, somewhere around there, where YouTube wanted to make it easier for you to see the same people, right? Before then, there was no like following or subscribing or anything. It was just you went on YouTube and you knew like a video and you would find it, right? So eventually YouTube introduces this feature. Facebook and the other platforms start kind of copying it, if you will. And they realized, they were like, okay, well now when you're following someone, you're not seeing everyone else's content, so there's no new content for you. You're only stuck in your horse blinders of the current content, right? So they changed the algorithm. The algorithm now introduces you to new content, but also shows you some of the stuff that you're following. As the internet grew older, we started following a lot of things, and it became more difficult to understand what to prioritize, and ads came into that formula, right? So what happens if I'm following a bunch of 13-year-old Minecraft YouTubers? That's not very profitable for YouTube because I'm like, that's like one of the least profitable markets there is in terms of RPMs. So YouTube's like, okay, we gotta introduce some higher monetization platforms of this. So now you can be subscribed to dozens of people, but you don't see them, right? Think about that. Like, how many people are you following on YouTube?
A lot.
A lot, right? But how many of their content do you actually see?
It's actually interesting because I watch YouTube probably more than most people, especially podcasters. And the way it works, I've noticed when I first go to YouTube, the first like 3-4 are people I follow.
Yeah.
I scroll down, I don't follow any of these people.
Yeah, right. But you also never go to the subscribe tab, right?
Never. Actually, I'll go to subscriptions to see what my people, because I follow so many people.
Okay.
But on homepage, most people, I'm not most people, but most people, they're on homepage, they probably see 3 or 4 people they follow.
Yeah.
Hundreds of videos they don't.
So now the algorithm has messed up kind of what following means, right? In terms of YouTube itself. But now let's go one step deeper because we're not all the way through this. Then think about TikTok, right? What is the name of the way TikTok's algorithm works? For you. It's for you, right? On Instagram, you open Instagram, the first thing they teach you to do is you need to follow people you want to see, right?
Yeah.
But on TikTok, they say, hey, we're just going to pick everything for you.
Yeah.
So they've completely removed the option for you to choose your subscription, right? And so yes, you can still subscribe people on TikTok, you can still follow people on TikTok, but the power is not there anymore. And the social dynamic of TikTok has been completely corroded now too. Because think about this, when people talk about TikTokers, they don't say, oh, are you following Daniel XXX? You're saying, oh, do you follow that guy on TikTok, you know, like the sports guy, and then he does like the whole like rants and everything?
Yeah.
That's how people talk.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah, of course. And then they send you the video. I don't need to. All the videos that get sent on TikTok, nobody follows those pages.
Yeah. So now they have followers. I'm not saying they don't, but I'm saying that like the way we as a society even discuss and address them, we don't talk about them from a position of like, oh, I'm subscribed to Omir Block on TikTok.
It's just a video.
Oh, are you subscribed to the remote VA guy on TikTok? Oh, cool, right?
Yeah.
So it's like the follower value has gone down significantly here over the last couple years, and it's only getting worse. And so now the next era of the internet, and this is the wave we've seen completely shift here, is depth over width and focusing on your community and owning your community. We have platforms like Beehive, platforms like
Circle,
School, right? All about owning your community, right? So we're shifting the internet now away from following and leaning deeper into community. And so yeah, that's the death of the follower, man.
So death of the follower.
So follower's dying.
It's dying.
It's dying, right?
And also with that comes AI that we have to like somehow.
Yeah, now we're gonna have like, dude, we as a collective society are not ready for like the next part of the
There's
internet.
gonna be creators that are AI, which already is out.
And we don't even know that they're gonna be AI. That's the issue. So like now we're in this weird position where everything we've learned so far, followers is not valuable. Then as a society, we've been trained to like look at our eyes and attach ourselves to a creator, but that's not valuable anymore because AI could be doing that, right?
Yeah.
So like everything we know is about to collapse and become something new.
Yeah.
And it's happening at a way more drastic rate than any other changes have in previous history. So we need to prepare ourselves for that next change because the people that are ahead of this wave are gonna own the internet, right? Like Mr. Beast is not gonna stop being Mr. Beast. He's going to grow and keep growing, and he's at such a light year ahead of everyone.
I think he's the number one subscribed channel.
He's the number one subscribed channel in the world now, right? So it's like, he's at such a gap in front of everyone that he could take a breather for the next 5 years and he would still be on top, right? So we need to understand that gap in modern society, like you have the 1%, then you have the 99%, and that's like the wealth gap everyone likes to talk about. That there's a decent gap there, but it's manageable. Like you can get to the 1% by making $400K a year, which is not the most insane amount of money, right? But the gap in the creator economy is so wide, and it's only about to get much wider, that's why we need to get people help now. We need to get people in front of this. We need to make sure that people have the right resources, the abilities, and the metrics so they can tail behind these people like Mr. Beast, Eric, Logan Paul, etc. And so that's what we want to do at CreatorFest, is we want to combine these incredible companies, the business leaders, people who have effectively made $1 million from their brand or managed $1 million brand, and get them into a room with these creators and entrepreneurs and help everybody learn and raise our ships together, you know?
Yeah, that's one of the things I'm most excited about the event, which I'll be going. If you're not going, you're missing out. Mid-August. Give us the dates. August 16th.
August 15th to the 18th in Orlando, Florida.
We'll be there.
Come meet Omir.
Yes.
Take a video with him.
One of the things that I'm most excited about is meeting creators that I can provide value to when it comes to hiring and business and sales, whatever, but also learning from them about content, because I've been doing content now for like 2 years. This is the first year I really have seen like, I just told you we hit 1,000 subscribers and I'm seeing like growth from it and we get clients from it, but like I want to take it to the next level because I realize that I don't care about Omir Blog being famous. I'm going there with the intention is how do I make remote Latinos a worldwide brand, right? And with Omir Block, I'm always going to be fine. I know how to sell. So if everything goes to shit today, I'll find a sales job and I'll be making 6 figures, right? I don't mind that, but I don't want that. I want to figure out how do I take the name Remote Latinos, which we also own, we're eventually going to launch Remote Africans, we have Remote Asians, Remote all this stuff, and make that a worldwide brand. So I'm really curious to see, I'm sure there's going to be people that have
so that's the key word that you just said right there is like build a brand.
Yeah.
Right. I think everyone wants to build a following, but we need to change our perspective now to build a brand.
Right.
And so it's like if people follow people, they don't follow businesses. So people follow brands, right? And so it's like if Elon Musk quits tomorrow, whatever the next thing he does, he'll sell it out.
100%.
Why? Because he built a brand.
Yeah.
That's what CreatorFest is here to help you do.
Yes.
It's here to help you build a brand. Now, how do you build a brand? There's 5 layers to do that. You have to start with product, distribution, management, monetization, and then growth. Like, those are the 5 pillars. Here's what a lot of things people won't think about. When we're talking about product, what's interesting is that when I'm talking to a lot of creators that think about physical products, but what they don't realize is that most creators make the mistake of not realizing that they are media entities. And if they're media entities, then guess what? The product is the videos. So it's like you have to reframe how you look at video content. You have to look at it like a product. Like, how do we deliver the success rate? How do we get engagement faster? Like, how do we repackage it to hit new markets? Like, it in itself is a product. Then when we're talking about distribution, we actually have Brooke Berry from Snapchat is going to be out there, because a lot of entrepreneurs also sleep on Snapchat. Yet Snapchat, yeah, right? Like, I remember when I told you about Snapchat a year ago, you were like, nah, dude, it's like.
No. I'll take it back. I didn't know that you use it, and I didn't know people use it to make money. I use it to like send silly pictures to my friends.
Yeah.
But people are making
the poop jokes and stuff.
Yeah, people are making, like, Mike Malak is making millions.
So Snapchat is the highest RPM, which is revenue per million. I think it's milli, but it's like it's meant to be 1,000. It has the highest RPMs out of any platform. Right? So you get paid more for your content on Snapchat than anything else, but yeah, everyone ignores it.
Everyone.
So we're gonna have the director of Snapchat out there, right? Yeah. We're gonna have Logan Paul's attorney is gonna be out there. Yeah. We've got all kinds of different powerhouse speakers and whatnot. We've Eddie Malouf, you know the Malouf-nator. Yes. So that's the idea, is like going through distribution and management. It's like, okay, now how do you manage your team? How do you manage your ecosystem? All of that. And it's just moving along this chain to build your brand, right? Because when people think content, they always think YouTube, and that's not what it should be. Some people are only Instagram and TikTok content. Some people are solely YouTubers, right? Like, we have to find the middle ground for where this works too. Yeah. So we've really tried to make this event, I'm very proud to say this event is non-platformist. That's like my way of saying, like, we're not racist to different content and platforms.
It's TikTok, everybody. You got everybody.
Because a lot of events are like either TikTok or Snapchat. It's like this event, however, it's for everyone, right? So we have Snapchat, TikTok. We have literally the head of YouTube Shorts is going to be at this event. Snapchat is going to be at this event. We're working on getting Meta at this event. We have a major podcasting group. We have actually the 3rd largest entrepreneur podcast in the world is going to be out here.
Which is?
Scott DeClary's Success Stories. They just had Dean Graziosi on last week.
That's sick.
Yeah, we just closed him yesterday. So that's a brand new announcement.
Let's go.
You heard it here first.
I love it. So obviously the vision's clear. You know exactly what you're building with this event.
So this is like a 3-year play. Like, this is something that's we have to prove the idea this year, and then scale it the next 2 years.
100%. And obviously the first one is the most important, because you want to, hit the home run. What are some of the challenges that you're experiencing building this? Because, I follow your shorts regularly, and I see, some days are high, some days are low. Like, what some things, let me rephrase that question. What are some things that are more difficult about building this than previous events?
Oof, man. Great question. I wish I knew some of these things ahead of time. So, most events that we ran up until this point were entrepreneur events, right? So they were events that were focused on entrepreneurs, helping them make money, which meant that, like, we never had an issue selling tickets at like $500, $1,000, $2,000, $3,000. When you're dealing with creators, though, and we marketed this first towards creators, which was our mistake. We need to change that now. Creators, they are, 1, they don't have a lot of expendable capital. 2, they're not used to paying and investing in themselves. So the creator economy has kind of skewed how these people work, and that, like, we put them on a pedestal. So whenever they're invited to be part of something, or they're asked to be part of something, their assumption is always, hey, like, I'm getting flown out for free, like, they're going to take care of me the whole 9 yards, and I'm going to post a story and call it a day.
Hilarious.
And that is how we used to work in the creator economy, right? Like, that's how it used to work.
10 years ago.
No, like 3 years ago in the pandemic. Like, that was huge. That's how companies work. But now, we're post-pandemic. Brands aren't spending nearly even 1/10 of what they spent anymore. Brand deals are drying up. And these creators still have the same skewed perspective of, like, oh, if there's an event, like, I should be getting paid to go to this event, to learn about how to grow my own business. Yeah. So that was really the big thing that I wasn't entirely expecting, was how skewed the market perspective is of creators on investing in themselves. That's been a tough one, especially since you have these really big events like VidCon, which VidCon's owned by, they're owned by Paramount. So VidCon can spend like $5, $10, $15 million a year on their event. And so VidCon, they pay for a lot of creators to come out to their event too. So when we're going to these creators and they're like, oh, like, well, I would go to yours, but VidCon's going to pay to fly me out. And you're asking me to pay to then go out?
Yeah, it's going to be...
It's a tough sell.
It's a very tough sell.
Really tough sell. So that's the first biggest hurdle we have to overcome. The second biggest hurdle is how skewed the speakers are as well. Now, we've got an awesome lineup of speakers, and I'm not specifically talking about the speakers that I have at this event currently, but there was a lot of people who I wanted to be speakers at this event, and I thought would be a great fit, it'd be a huge home run for them, but their mindset was along the lines of like, hey, like I would love to come to this event, but you're gonna have to pay me upwards of like 30, 40, $50,000, dollars to come and speak at this event. And I've spent money on speakers before. I've hired speakers for lots of my events, and I'll tell you one thing, where speakers don't sell events, right? Speakers they're important because they are an authority piece for sponsors to get involved. And then when you have speakers and sponsors involved, then attendees participate. But speakers themselves don't sell events. And so if we were gonna direct $30,000, $50,000 worth of money towards a speaker, and they don't, and they make a post, maybe we get a couple leads out of it, it's like, we're paying thousands of dollars per lead, not even per ticket sale. So that was really the second thing, was that there was a lot more people who I wanted to have featured at this event that didn't see the long-term vision of being involved in a creator conference and putting themselves on these stages, and instead they only wanted to ask. Now, luckily, the speakers that I do have at this event are still incredible. Each one of them has either A, grown 1 million followers in less than a year, B, made $1 million from their brand in under a year, or C, they manage $1 million brand, right? And all of these speakers that we have, I'm so fortunate, were really willing. They saw the vision, they saw the execution, they wanted to get behind it, and that's why we have the awesome lineup we have today.
And at the end of the day, you don't need everyone to be a part of the vision.
Yeah, and I think there's going to be a huge gap, man. I think like basically, a lot of these events are contouring to, here's the state of like, a lot of these events are pushing more followers and better videos, but they're not pushing like, we have friends like Billy Wilson, who's got I think 40,000 subscribers, and Billy's got millions in the bank. Sorry if I just exposed you, Billy, but it's like, you could do so much with so little. And when I go to these other creators that have 80, 100,000, I'm explaining that to them, it's like rocket science. It's like foreign language to them. They just don't understand it. And so that's why this event has to exist, because if you are a creator that's able to harness these tools, you're going to have a huge step in the market. But if you're also an entrepreneur that can master content, it's millions of dollars in your pocket.
It's both. It's a win-win.
It's a win-win for everyone. Yeah.
I find it fascinating because I come from the world of investing in myself. The first business I did was multi-level marketing, and I paid to go to events, and I paid to go see Gary Vee in 2012 before anybody knew who he was and all that stuff. And I realized early on, I'm a kid at this age, you got to pay to play. We're not connected to Brian Pineda, not because Ramon Latinos is cool and we've hired a couple people for him. It's because we paid him a shit ton of money, and he's like, these guys are serious. But I think that creators don't come from the entrepreneurial world. They come from the creator world, and they want to be creative and create videos and edits and all that stuff. And if again, it's going to be a set percentage, but the ones who come to this event, they get to learn from the Eddies of the world and the other entrepreneurs that you have there that are actually going to teach them about how to grow and scale a business and focus on a product, and all the stuff that I'm sure that they're going to be sharing. It's going to be so revolutionary to them, because clout is gone. I don't care about your subscribers. It's funny, some of the people that I follow on YouTube, they have maybe 10,000 followers, 20,000 subscribers, whatever, but their videos are so high quality. They're so high quality. And I'm like, the comments are always like, I can't believe you only have 5,000, you have only 5,000 subs,
And again, it all boils down to the death of the follower, man.
That's it.
As a society, we just put too much value on this whole follower thing for a long time.
For a year, for over a decade,
And now we need to put value on what's important, which is money and time, right? And so this event, we're going to solve two problems. We're going to help people stop being broke, and we're going to help people avoid burnout. Burn out your content, burn out your business, burn out in your media.
So as we wrap this up, who we talked about, the who is going to be working, who's going to be the perfect fit to go on a CreatorFest. Who's CreatorFest not for?
I definitely would say anyone who, one, is scared of being on camera. And I'm saying, if you're scared of being on camera but still want to do it, we have a home for you. But if you're like, hey, listen, I never want to be in front of the camera, I don't want to be in any form of content or media, there's really nothing I have for you there. And the second is the creator that is solely sufficient with being 100% relying on themselves, right? Of just like, hey, like my income comes from how many followers I have. I like riding the revenue roller coaster where some months I make a lot of money from ads and some months I make no money from ads. You're probably not going to have a good fit in here either, right? And you should be here, but I found that most people that enjoy riding that roller coaster, they want to keep riding it, and they're okay with making $40K 1 month and then no money for the next 6 months, right? So really leaning into the event is best for entrepreneurs who want to benefit from building media and content online, and creators who want to build a business behind their brand.
I love it. I love it. So I'm really excited because this is, like I mentioned in the beginning, this is part one of pre-CreatorFest.
Pre-CreatorFest.
This is
the second part will be filmed at CreatorFest.
Yes, at CreatorFest.
And it will be full room, and we're gonna have 1,000 people at the event, and everyone's gonna fucking love it, and it's gonna be sick. And then we're gonna film this video, and we're gonna be like, damn, remember when we had 60 days ago, we had some doubts and we were scared? It's all about seeing in your mind. So here's the thing real quick. I'm gonna steal this podcast for because I'm fucking fired up about this, right? Like, I've been making this series where every day up until the event, I've documented my journey on the route to 1,000 ticket sales. Will we hit 1,000? I'm very confident we will, but there's an opportunity we might not, and that's okay, right? Like realistically, it's a first-year event. I just want to fill it with as many people as possible, and I want to do this the right way, and that to me is a success. But I started this series where I said in 100 days we're going to run CreatorFest, and I'm going to document every single day, what has been going on, the highs and the lows. And I originally did this because I wanted to be authentic to the people that follow me that maybe don't have the resources to work with us, but they wanted to still be a part of, I want to learn how to run an event like this. Because I'm not the only person who dreams of running events, right? Like a lot of people do, and they just don't know how. And so I made this series to do that. And what's interesting is the amount of enemies I've created by doing this series. And when I say enemies, I mean people who have followed me and they see like, oh, we're only 100 days out and you're only at 120 ticket sales, right? And even though most people only buy tickets in the last like 45 days of the event, like, oh, you're only at 100 ticket sales. Yeah, like your event's gonna be a failure. We're pulling out. Like, I don't want to come. Like, go fuck yourself. And so I've had this unique moment where you and I are both big anime fans. And I'm sure you remember Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood, right?
Yeah.
Like the final scene where Edward Elric is gearing up to fight the boss, and obviously I'm not going to spoil it for anyone, but he's gearing up to fight the boss, and he's weak, and he's tired, and he's like, he can't even throw a punch. And one of the soldiers stands up, and he's like, you could do it, Edward! And then it zooms out, and it's everyone along the way, all the friends he helped, all the people he supported, like even the small little guy that was like the small merchant, like they all step on, they're like, you could do it! And they all come together, and they cheer him on, and then he now has the strength to go back and take on this absolute god of a human being in this one-on-one fight. And that's how I feel right now with this series. Because I've made a lot of enemies unintentionally, because people have come out of the woods to say like, hey, I knew this was going to be a bad idea, and I was right, even though the series isn't over yet. Meanwhile, I've had a lot of people who I don't know that say, hey, I just want you to know, like, I'm rooting for you from the shadows. Let me lend you support. I've had friends that came out and redid my marketing campaign, friends that lent me their messaging bots, things that brought me their AIs. Like, so many people have come out to support me, and it's been so fulfilling to do that. So I think it's really important to document where I'm at mentally along the way, and just being as vulnerable and as honest, because come 100 days from now, I know CreatorFest is going to be a home run smash. But there's a reality where it might not be too, and I'm not oblivious to that. But I want people to be able to go back and look at this series, which is on my personal profile page, Iconic Becker on everything, and be able to say, you know what, he tried. He really tried. And every day he showed up and he still tried. And that's what I think I want to be known for CreatorFest as well, because if I can't lead these creators to try and to give it their all, and I can't show these entrepreneurs that posting content every day is mutually beneficial, then I don't deserve to run this event. And that's why I'm doing it. And if I do this event right and I fill it with the right people, then hopefully that 10-year-old version of me that wanted to be a YouTuber can be proud, you know?
It's coming, dude. It's like everything that we've talked about, I feel like it's a couple things. It's showing up, it's doing things the right way, and it's that long-term vision, because if you do this right, but then CreatorFest is nothing else a year from now, you failed.
Yeah.
So obviously everything right now is the focus is for August, but like the vision is for 25, 26, 27, 28.
Yeah, and that's what I'm excited about. So what makes CreatorFest different is like that keyword, CreatorFest, the festival, right? So most events are centered around like one person, one entity, one business selling something. But with CreatorFest, are you familiar with like CES, the Consumer Electronics Show?
Yes, I
right?
heard of it.
It's a really big show in Vegas.
Yeah.
And so they're one of the largest events in the world. And they started because Motorola rented out this big hotel for their debut phones. And this was like a decade ago. And Samsung was like, hey, we've got people who would like your phones, but it's also our people. And your people would probably like our phones too. It would be mutually beneficial for both of us if we brought our people to your event, since you already have the hotel, and maybe we just have some floor space we can show our stuff too. Motorola was like, that's cool. And so it started with those two, and then more companies got together and realized like when we combine all of our audiences into one mega event, we all win. And so like for Snapchat, how we were able to get Snapchat involved was we weren't like, hey, come and speak at our event. So we were like, hey, like we've bought out this entire hotel in Orlando. So everyone at the hotel is going to be just CreatorFest attendees. But it's also like this room is the Snapchat room. Whatever they want to do inside of it is theirs. So for Snapchat, they didn't want to deal with organizing an event. They don't want to deal with organizing ticket sales or paying for room blocks or anything. But now they can have their own event at no cost to them. And all they have to do is just bring a certain amount of attendees to the event.
And provide value.
Yeah, so it's like that's the long-term goal is like, let's make this the CES of the creator economy.
I love it. That is phenomenal. I'm so excited. There's only 2 events I look forward to every year, and it's the event that we're a part of and your events.
Yeah.
So I'm excited, man, and it's going to be huge. And again, this is the CreatorFest podcast.
The next one will be at the official podcast studio at CreatorFest, of which we actually have 3 available. So if you're a podcaster and you want to film content, we're going to have a podcast studio available for you to use.
100%. And here's the last amazing part is that even though this is Iconic's first official event of his, he's done this 100 times. So it's not like, oh my God, I'm a guinea pig. Like, no, this is not a guinea pig at all. Like, he's already put, I really believe the hardest part is the ticket sales. And I think that's where once you get over that hump, everything else that you're going to put together is going to be extraordinary. And people are going to talk about this event forever. So guys, thank you so much for watching the video. I hope you learned something. Follow Iconic Becker on every social media. Like, comment, subscribe, share this with someone. In August 15th, 2024, Orlando, Florida. We will see you guys there.
Yeah, check out CreatorFest.events. Very key. CreatorFest.events. All right, it's the one with the red, yellow, and teal. All right, and check this out. If you are watching this podcast, we are also going to go ahead and give a $100 discount to anyone who wants to grab a ticket coming from this. The coupon code is OMER, O-M-E-R.
Let's go.
For $100 off any ticket. I was a little surprised.
Link in the bio.
Link in the bio. Check that one. Don't go to the other one. That one's a phony.
Let's go. CreatorFest.events. See you guys soon.
Thanks for having me, big dog.